Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and we're here to talk about the WandaVision, apparently, series finale. I had read that, they were thinking about maybe possibly doing a season 2. And of course, I've been saying for a while that I thought this season or now series would end on a cliffhanger because it was just so much that they needed to wrap up in the last couple of episodes. I didn't think they could really do it without rushing it too much. But apparently, it's a one and done deal. Unless you interpret the words series finale to mean the end of the TV program within the TV program that Wanda was running, even though that ended a couple of episodes ago. But you know what I'm saying? It's like a double entendre, as the French say, double entendre. But that's the title of the episode, so it is what it is, and only time will tell what happens. And they did pretty much wrap up everything, though I do have questions. But let me get into what I thought of the episode. First of all, it was fantastic, not surprisingly at all. And, that had a lot to do with the superior or superb acting of Catherine Hahn and, Miss Olsen, Paul Bettany. So it was just really great. Of course, the episode starts out where Wanda and Agatha are fighting in the street. And, she's still endangering the kids. Agatha is, and Wanda's not happy about it. And she says, I'm outside of your enclosed room of runes now. Did you forget that? And she's like, no, I'm counting on it. And there's a little bit of back and forth. And then Wanda hurls a freaking car at her, which was awesome. So I wrote down, how about I hit you with the fucking Buick? Which is basically what she did. And then there's this quick moment where she goes up to look and see if, she's dead or if it hit her or she dodged at the last second or what. And she peers through the window of this house, which is the front wall of this house that's now been breached by the car. And she sees Agatha's feet or boots sticking out from under debris or part of the car or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's some Wizard of Oz imagery for you there. And I don't think it was accidental. But anyway, what was weird about this moment is they didn't show the car hit her. I don't know why. I mean, they have the technology to do that. They've certainly shown things hit people before in these movies. But you see the car flying, and then the next thing you know is you see Agatha's face, like, oh, crap, it's coming at me. And then the next thing you see is the car slamming into the house. And you don't even really know that it hit her until Wanda goes over there. I thought that was a little weird. Anyway, the white vision shows up, and I was like, oh, crap. But Wanda says to him, is it really you? And, she says that because she knows that her vision is fake or not the original. Was created from her magic out of nothing. So she's thinking that this other vision, she doesn't know what it is. I'm sure she suspects that it's the body put back together. So she asks, for clarification, is it really you? Turns out, no, it's not really him. I mean, it's him, but he's been reprogrammed. So he's kind of menacing her, but then our vision shows up, the vision from Westview, Wanda's creation, and knocks him away from her. And, they start a fight. But then there's a scene where the FBI agent is talking with the jerk from S.W.O.R.D. about, this isn't good what you're doing. You're going to get in trouble for this. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. Wanda did this, Wanda did that. And she illegally tried to bring her husband or lover or whatever back to life. And I'm like, why would it be illegal to bring him back to life? I don't understand what he meant by that, but he says that. And then the FBI guy makes a phone call, and he calls someone named Cliff. Now, I thought he said Clint at first, and I said, oh, okay. Hawkeye's going to show up. But no, he said Cliff. And I had to research that, so we'll get to that in a moment. Because you never find out who he is in the episode, but I have a suspicion. Then there's a moment where Agatha is in the town square and still fighting with Agatha. And Agatha releases the people around them both from Wanda's spell or magic or hold or whatever you want to call it. And one of them, the woman, I guess Dottie, the woman that was depicted as being sort of hoity-toity in one of the early episodes, approaches her and she says, Wanda, Wanda, would you please let my daughter out of my room? I just want to hold her. And I was like, wow, that is hardcore. Like, this woman hasn't seen her daughter because Wanda's got her trapped in her room, which goes back to something Pietro, or fake Pietro, we now know, asked her about in the Halloween episode. You know, where are all the kids? What are you doing with them? So I thought that was, you know, freaky. Just gives you an idea of how twisted this whole thing was that Wanda did. But then the military shows up because they managed to get in when Wanda started to take down the barrier. And so the FBI guy, not the FBI guy, the sword guy is menacing Wanda and the kids and all that. And Darcy shows up and plows into his truck with her truck and traps him in there. And she says, have fun in prison, which was awesome. Love Darcy. But meanwhile, Rebecca is being held captive by fake Pietro, who we find out is really just a Westview resident named Ralph Bonner. And she, of course, pronounces his name Boner, and he goes, haha, Boner, which is very silly. But yeah, so he's just a golem, but not made from nothing. He was, I guess, a regular resident of Westview before Agatha got a hold of him, so we learned that. But then we go back to the scene where the townspeople are sort of confronting Wanda because they're pissed, obviously. They've all been held hostage. And they say to her, you know, when you let us sleep, we have your nightmares. And she said, you know, Wanda said something like, I've protected you. It's peaceful here. And that's kind of when they said that, when you let us sleep, which means they don't always get to sleep. We have your nightmares. So they're dreaming her nightmares, which is horrible. And she said, but I've tried to protect you. And they say, no, we feel your pain. So again, you get this really dark picture of how this whole thing affected these people. And it was just really mind-blowing to me how horrible this experience was for these townspeople, and the weight and the gravity of the awfulness of what Wanda did, you know, be it unknowingly or what have you, really hurt these people. It was just very powerful to hear them say that stuff. But then a fight really gets going between Wanda and Agatha, who to this point had really just been bantering, and it gets pretty heated. They're throwing magic at each other. Agatha's trying to drain Wanda's magic, and it's getting crazy. Then we flash over to the two visions, the dual visions, who are fighting each other, and they're phasing in and out of each other and flying through walls, and it was just crazy. But then the Westview vision engages White Vision in a conversation. He's trying to get him to stop doing what he's doing, and they have this discussion about the ship of Theseus. And the ship of Theseus is an old philosophical thought experiment, where you talk about how, you know, a thing is a thing, but then if you change it in some way, is it still a thing? Like, if you replace the shingles on the roof of a house, is it still the same house? If you replace the viewfinder on a camera, is it still the same camera? Or in this case, you know, if you replace the floorboards on the ship of Theseus and the mast, is it still the same ship, and to what degree, and so forth? And it kind of brings White Vision around to where he's not attacking the other vision anymore. And it comes out that he doesn't have all the memories of the original, of his original self. He has them, but they're not accessible. So Westview Vision makes the memories accessible to him, and he's like, okay, I have to change what I'm doing. And he flies off. And we don't see him after that. So that's, you know, something that was kind of a little cliffhanger, but that's okay. Because just before that, he managed to say, I am Vision. So, you know, it seems to mean that he's back to his old self, but we're going to have to see. The next thing that happens is Wanda takes Agatha back to her past, kind of like Agatha did to Wanda in the previous episode. And I wrote down, I can play the rerun game too. But it ends up going sideways. So that wasn't good, but, you know, what are you going to do? But the fight continues, and they're up in the air, and they're slinging, insults and words at each other. And again, Agatha's trying to drain her power. Wanda then reveals that she has put up runes in the sky when Agatha seems to have trouble casting her magic. And these giant runes that show up all over the horizon and surround them, both in the sky. And she says, remember, only a witch who casts the runes can cast her magic within a given space. And that was pretty much the end of Agatha. But not before the total and complete oh shit moment of the episode, where Wanda becomes the Scarlet MF Witch with an awesome costume in a great ball of light. It was just freaking heroic.
You don't know what you've done.
Crazy thing is, we were shown a sneak peek of this costume the whole time. Because if you look at one of the promotional images for the show, one of the ones with all the TVs stacked on top of each other, a couple of the screens actually show that Wanda has on, that Wanda ends up wearing a superhero suit. It's red, and it's got a red sleeve, and it's red up at the chest and neck. So they actually previewed this whole thing from the beginning, which is pretty cool. But Agatha ends up defeated, and Wanda looks like maybe she's gonna kill her, but Agatha says, no, kill me. And she says, no, I'm gonna just leave you here in the role you cast yourself in, the nosy neighbor. I've been calling her the wacky neighbor, but it's the same thing. And she basically transforms her into her old self that she's been behaving as during the course of the show. And she's like, oh, hon, it's good to see you, hon. And you can tell she's totally under the spell. So, and then Wanda just kind of leaves her there, sort of like to contain her, and I think as a bit of a punishment for messing with the town and so forth. But, there's more of the episode after this. Of course, Wanda realizes she has to say goodbye to the kids because she's undoing the hex in order to free the townspeople. She does continue undoing the hex. And she and Vision put the kids to bed and, tell them that they're proud of them and so forth. And they leave, the room while the kids are laying down for bed and sort of give them one last look. But then the hex, wall contracts past them, and they're gone. I expected Wanda to kind of break down, but I think she's kind of broken down so much, leading up to the events of what happened during this series, that she sort of passed it. Maybe she might break down some more later, but I don't think she had any breakdown in her at that moment. But then she has to go downstairs. She goes downstairs with Vision, and they start to say their goodbyes. And she tells him, even though, you're not real, or he says, I'm not real. And she says, well, what you are is the part of the Mind Stone that lives in me. And I guess that sort of explains how she has been able to wield Mind Stone magic at different points in the series. Part of the stone lives in her, I guess, from her experience that they showed in the flashback. And she says, you are my sadness, you are my hope, you are my love. Which I thought was great. And as they're saying goodbye, and as the hex is washing past them and dissipating past them, you see the sort of a rewind where the set in the background, the house that they're in the background, goes back through all the time periods that the show WandaVision, quote unquote, went through during the series. And it was pretty cool. And of course, once it completely dissolves, she's standing there in that same like empty, overgrown plot of land that she found herself in when she first went to Westview looking for this property that had been drawn for her on a map by Vision. And it was profound and sad and everything, but powerful. So, moving. But at that point, you realize some of the townspeople are still there. I'm like, why are they still there? Like, why would you not have taken the hell off? Didn't make any sense to me, but whatever. So she starts walking toward Rebecca and toward the military vehicles, and I guess another agency that has showed up to take Sword out of there and arrest the Sword leader guy. And I thought, oh, she's going to turn herself in because she knows she did wrong and she hurt these people and she's got to turn herself in. It's the right thing to do, but she doesn't. She just has a conversation with Rebecca where they compliment each other on how amazing they both were. And I was, puzzled by that, but I guess it makes sense. She doesn't want to go to jail. And I thought, where's Vision? Because he never shows up. The white Vision, real Vision, never shows up. So that's one of the things they didn't do anything with at the moment. We're going to see where that goes, I guess, in future Marvel movies. Some people suspect that some of these things will be dealt with in Doctor Strange 2. We'll have to see. The next thing that happens is there's kind of a credits thing, and then there's a little scene where a government agent shows up and says, to Rebecca that someone up above wants to talk to her after she removes her fake face and reveals herself to be a Skrull, which was interesting. And I think the person that she points to up above is Director Fury in one of those flying ship things. So we'll see what he has to say to her at some point, I think. But again, something else that got left, I don't want to say unresolved, but a story point that we only see the beginning of in this show. Now, who is Cliff? Because there's a thing where, a moment where the FBI agent calls somebody named Cliff for some kind of help. And I looked this up, and it seems like the Cliff they're talking to is Cliff Randall from Marvel Comics, who is actually an alien from what's known as the Collective Intelligence. And he has an association with S.H.I.E.L.D., which makes sense. That would make sense and why Fury is there, and it would make sense that they were the agency that showed up to clean up Sword's mess. So I think that's who they're referring to, but you don't see him. You don't know what he actually did. One assumes he called S.H.I.E.L.D. in, but I don't know. I wonder if they're going to do anything with that. And then the credits go on, and there's yet another scene of Wanda sort of living in a cabin by herself, away from society, like in the outback somewhere, and she's got the book. She's got Agatha's book, and she's reading through it, and kind of like a what I would call a meditative state, a magical meditative state. So we know that she's learning more about her, what she can do, I'm guessing, and what the Scarlet Witch is at least in legend, and learning about that, the magic, more about chaos magic. So that's pretty cool. That's probably going to have implications going forward also for the character. But I thought this episode was excellent, just as all the others have been excellent. I thought the series was excellent. I'm sad to see it go. Jessica Hahn was fantastic. I think she should get all the awards, for this show, Emmys, whatever, the Webbies, whatever. She should get them all. She's fantastic in this, both as the villain and the nosy neighbor. I did think that, this episode was a bit rushed, as I've been saying for a couple of weeks now. There's no way they're going to end this without a massive cliffhanger or not rush it. They didn't have a massive cliffhanger, and they didn't rush it terribly, which I was glad for, but they did rush it. Things moved really fast in this episode. We only found out who the villain was like last week, and then all of a sudden, bang, 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 they have a fight and it's over. I thought that was really quick. If this had been a movie or a longer season of a show, that whole thing would have played out longer, I think. And of course, those things can get dragged out too long. So I don't know, maybe they struck a good middle, with their pace, good middle ground. But it did feel a tiny bit rushed, but it didn't take away from the quality at all, in my opinion. You just roll with it. It goes fast and you go fast right along with it, because it was exhilarating too. So I didn't think it was a quality issue. I just wanted to note it because I thought it could have gone a little bit slower just to make it easier to absorb, but it didn't take away from the quality at all. There were no cameos. There had been some rumors going around that maybe Doctor Strange was going to show up, or perhaps somebody else from the Marvel universe, the MCU, but there were no cameos. So I was kind of let down by that, but it was always rumor, right? So you can't really be disappointed, I guess. But that was it. WandaVision's done. This coming Friday, they're going to have, I guess, some kind of a retrospective. They're going to talk about the making of the show and the implications of the show and so forth. So I'm going to watch that. And then the following week, we are on to Falcon and the Winter Snowman. So I'll definitely be checking that out. That looks like it's going to be really good. And I'll come and give you my review. What do you think of that? That'd be great. Don't you think? I do. Okay. But that's really it. So I'll be back with a review of, the next episode of Superman, the next episodes of Batwoman and The Flash, and maybe some entertainment news if I get a chance. And I'll definitely be back after Falcon and the Winter Snowman debuts. Until then, as usual, I leave you with my customary exit greeting. Peace and long life.